Hello, it's me, Andy from Blitz Gaming. I hope you're having all a great day. Sorry for the racket, if you can hear it, it's thunder, rain, wind and everything outside. Today's video, we've got a new build. We're going to do an Athlon, an AMD build, Athlon 3000G. Yeah, with a Gigabyte A520M-S2H. I've already done an unboxing of this. I'll put that up there somewhere. Let's go want to see it. We also used the Radeon RX 550 to compare the graphic card and these low-end graphic card with the built-in IGP. Now they're pretty close, I'll let you know already. And it's all going in this SilentiumPC Signum SG1 case. I think that's what it is. And I'll stick it up here. Power supply, unfortunately don't have a box. Can't remember where I put it. 650, that's a bit, yes, overboard for this build, but no complaints. 16 gigs of DDR, 266 because the Athlon only supports 266. Normal hard disk for the game drive, and we've got a Western Digital green drive there, M2 for the boot drive. So hopefully it all goes lovely and jubbly. We'll put it together, benchmark it and see how it comes out, and we will compare it to the Pentium Gold, because that's only, it's got the same amount of cores, and you know it's got an RGB, the Pentium Gold. It's lousy, but I have done a video on their graphics, separate video on their graphics, and we will compare the Pentium Gold with the A550, the RX 550, which we've already done in the past, against the Athlon. Okay, let's get on with it. Okay, let's build our machine. One board. Just in case you haven't watched my channel before and you're wondering why I've got an anti-stack strap on, it's all on an anti-stack mat. And plus components, well, the chance of blowing you up these days is slim. Like that. So, one AMD motherboard. Nice little board at the end of the day. If you haven't seen the unboxing, if you want to know all the bits on it, especially watch the unboxing. At the end of the day, but it's got two DDR sockets at the end of the day, dual channel, USB, 4 SATA at the end of the day, one M2 socket supporting PCI Express 3, not PCI Express 4, just to let you know. Okay, it does come with a flash button, this board, which is great. It doesn't come with USB-C. And it's not designed for overclocking, it's a budget board. She's a very tiny fan, very tiny fan. So we're not expecting this to get hot at the end of the day. Don't forget it's got thermal paste on the bottom of this one. So watch your hands. At the end of the day, there's no sticky pad to pull off. Just make sure you don't get your hands on it. Brings back old memories having an Athlon. The amount of Athlons I've had in the past. Okay, we install the CPU. We bring up the old lever, like so. Now on AMD CPUs, yeah, they have a little triangle. You can see that there. Yeah, and that triangle faces the triangle on the socket, which is somewhere, which is there, bottom left corner. Now whatever you do, don't break the pins. Yeah, well don't break, well chance of breaking the pins is hard anyway, but bend them is easy. So just push that in like so. Should go in nice and easy. Bring the lever back, and that'll lock in position. Put the fan on. When you put it on, in this case, the power supply for the CPU fan is here on the top left. So we'll put it this way round, or since it's actually quite long, this lead, will that go like that? No, that's too short now. So it goes one way or the other, basically this way or that way. These have got clips. You may have third-party fans where you screw down. Yeah, they will give you a plate, come through these holes, and then you screw down the fan. Being it's a nice simple one, we should push that straight down like so. I've got to say, I'm not a lover of these sort of things. You push on, and you bring the lever back to lock it in position. And put the old cable on. And there we go. I mean, ideally, if you can, try and find a way to actually hide this wire. So, well, if you're going to make a PC, no, I mean, you don't have to. You could be really untidy. That's entirely up to you. We'll just plug that down there like so. Probably put a thing on it to hold it still. So that ain't going nowhere. At the end of the day. Now it's completely different setup for Intel. If you want to watch that, we're doing Intel. At the end of the day, I've got a video how to install a CPU, so that should tell you on there. And if you want to watch one of my videos how to put a system together on the Intel builds, just watch one of those. Shows you plenty of times over and over. I'll let you know AM5 when it turns up next year, which is supposed to be due, if you're interested in the time period, the second half of next year. AM5 is going to follow Intel, where the pins are not on the chip, the pins are in the socket. Yeah, so it's a completely different system. It's a way better system at the end of the day, can't complain. Install the DDR, pull these two clips down. At the end of the day, note where the notch is on the memory, it lines up with the notch on the socket, and they vary. If you think DDR3, DDR2 can go in these sockets, they won't. That notch will be in a different spot. And if again on DDR5, when it turns up in the next 6 weeks or so, that notch will be in a different place, so it will not fit. Basically just line them up nicely, push it down, and the clips should come in, lock in position, and we're done. Again, second dim. All locked in position. Lovely jubbly. Got to put the M2 in. Going to use the Western Digital green drive. Why the green? Well, we're on a budget build at the end of the day, and this is about £5 cheaper down the blue. So, simple solution. I've got to find a. Okay, after a quick look, they've decided to do something different and actually leave it on the board itself. Okie dokie. Now the S2H Intel version, it came with a special one, plastic one, which you basically just turn. Didn't come with a screw, but they did supply a screw as well though. But obviously on this board they're not having none of it. So basically when you put the M2 in, put it in at an angle like so. Push it down. At the day, and we go with a screw. And there we are. We are ready to go into the board. Into the case, sorry. Okay, one case. At the end of the day, don't forget, back plate. At the end of the day, IO shield, back plate, IO plate, whatever you wish to call it. It goes in the case at the back. Now when you only got to do it by hand. Don't hit it with a hammer. Don't use power tools on it. Don't do nothing like that. Just push it in position. Now this case has standoffs. They're little. In this case they're gold. It can be silver or black. It's basically an item that screws into the case. Then a screw in turn goes into the standoff. And those standoffs line up with every hole, what I should do, all the screw holes on your motherboard. So you push the motherboard in position, line it up with the back plate. So it's going nicely, as it says. Perfect like so. If I hold it in position, you can see that all the standoff holes are lined up, and in that case we've got one missing there, so we'll take that back out. We've got standoff there, which is because we're using a micro ATX case, and these standoffs are in a position for a full ATX board. So whatever you do, don't over tighten these standoffs. Yeah, because the actual chassis of the motherboard is really thin, and you can break the thread. So you don't want to break the thread. At the day. Let's see if that lines up now. Pretty good. Now we're all good. Got all the screws in the right spot. Now the screws should come with the case. Put it all together. But that's a first. Speaker comes with a case. I ain't seen one of them for many moons. So I bought up £200 cases. They don't come with a speaker. And to be honest with you, well, all I do is bleep. I don't do anything else. I don't play music or anything. It's not your sound card. Now you want these motherboard screws. At the end of the day, I don't know if you can see them, but I will put the standoffs and the motherboard screws up in the corner now, so you can know what ones to use. Screw them in nicely. Again, don't over tighten. You don't want to damage your motherboard. And whatever you do, make sure you put them all in. You don't want your board coming loose. You probably say, well, why should it come loose? Well, when you put your graphic card in, if you get a graphic card, or not just a graphic card, even when you put your memory, change your memory round, yeah, you do put some pressure on the board and it will move it around. So you want to make sure the screws are in position. You just don't say to yourself, well, I've only got 3 screws and there's 7 holes. Go and get some more screws. dodgy screw again. Right, we're all in. She ain't going nowhere. Don't forget to put the fan on. Lucky for us, we've got one right next to it. Now you might think, when you put your fan on, why we've got, it only takes 3 pins to fan, and the other one's, it's got 4 pins on the board. There's 2 types of fans. One, which basically, it runs at full speed, and you need a controller to change it. Or you got one that's called PWM, where it changes with the environment basically. As your system gets hot, the fans ramp up, and as it gets cold, the fans go down. So it does it automatically. Which is great, they're the sort of fans you want, but you do pay more money for them. And fans do vary. I mean, like the fans I've got over there, they vary from 120mm fan, plain 120mm fan, between £3 and £5. RGB, yeah, with PWM, £25. So don't forget, you do pay for certain things. Right, turn her over. Let's take that out. Take that off. Supply goes in that way with the fan facing the bottom, going out as an exhaust. Now cases vary. You may have a power supply up here, you may have it over here. Yeah, depends what type of case you buy, but the majority of cases have a power supply at the bottom with the exhaust going out the bottom. Yeah. When you buy a power supply, they still come with screws. Just if you're wondering, I use iFixit tool set. You don't have to buy iFixit, but iFixit make the perfect sets, and I make several sets for computer technology. Okay, power supply. Now not all cases are made equal, yeah. In this case, we've got holes. Unfortunately, none at the top. At the end of the day, we've got holes at the side, holes at the bottom. Yeah. So there's no holes at the top. Here's this one in the corner, which I need. A 24 pin main board power supply. We've got all entangled. Goes into there, like so. CPU power goes up there in that corner there. Now you're probably saying, well, why don't I just go straight from there, straight up and across the board? Well, we want to do a tidy build, don't we? And then if you're going to build a PC, do a tidy job. And then it's like when you decorate your house, do a good job of it. That plugs straight in there, like so. And the CPU one goes in the top corner. Now, being a budget build and a budget board, now this board, since it's only got one 8-pin connector, yeah, for the CPU power, which goes there, which is in the top corner, yeah, so one 8-pin CPU power. It's designed for no overclocking and no powerful CPUs. So I'll probably put the maximum in here. I'll probably go no more than a 4-core chip. Yeah. So AMD's, trying to think what the 4-core ones are now. I can't remember. But basically, I won't go no more than probably a 4-core at best. Yeah. 6-core, maybe pushing it at the end of the day, because it hasn't got that extra power for the board. We are pushing it a bit too much. Okay. So we've got these 2 extra leads. So what these are for your graphic card. The graphic card we got there doesn't require any, and since we're going to be using the IGP, the built-in graphic card on the processor, again we don't require these. And being this is a semi-modular power supply, they come built into the power supply. We just push them out of the way, make it nice and neat so I don't want to show. And they so now we've got leads galore. Where's the USB 3 socket? No, it's down the bottom there. So we want to come out there. At the end of the day, we can. It fits. Yeah, that fit nicely. And the audio socket is also at the bottom. So we'll also go out the bottom for that. So we've got the USB 3, this big chunky thing. Not a fan of, I have to say, because they're big, they can break the socket. So you've got to watch them when you put them in. Well, basically, not when you put them in, it's basically when you don't knock up, when you take your graphic card out or anything like that, don't knock against them because it can break the socket. So this is the USB 3.2. If it ever goes in, when it going in, when it goes one way, I don't know what's going. Here we are. Audio goes in, is it going to reach? Bottom left. Pull them back through a little bit. At the end of the day. Actually, remove that audio cable, go through the other hole. Like I say, you don't want them on show, you want them nice and neat as possible. And there's the other reason, make them nice and neat. At the end of the day, airflow. At the end of the day, you want all the airflow coming in from the front of the case, unrestricted. You don't want anything blocking the airflow. You want it to make sure it comes nicely smooth across the board, keeping everything cool, and then going out the exhaust, unrestricted. Okay, they're in. Now we've got the city wires, which one day the world will get smart on. Okay, where's the PWM? Look, their control panel is there. I can't actually see that diagram, but being Gigabyte, they will probably put them all in the same order as all the others. So I have faith that in Gigabyte they haven't changed anything. Okay, so the fan's in, put the wire out the back, then through this hole, base it again, try and make it nice and neat and tidy. Now I could do RGBs, but we're doing a budget build and we don't want to spend the money. We obviously want to get it, keep it as cheap as cheerful as possible. Now I have got some. Now I don't use cable ties. We've got plenty of cable ties here. I'm not a cable tie fan at the end of the day. Now I rather use the straps, but I won't put strapping on it. This one ain't got a lot of wires. But what we'll do, I'll put one of these little clips on. So what we got here. We've got wiring going down there. You get these little stick-on clips from Amazon. Can't remember how much they were. Like a tenner for $100 or something. Put on there like that. Hold them in position. And this big batch at the back. I will tie down. No, we won't. The straps are upstairs, unfortunately. They come different sizes and different colours. These little clips, I find them fantastic, really. Me personally. So, the back side of the case. Got one upstairs, got the straps. Tied these up, stuck these down on the old clips. At the end of the day, put the hard drive in, which I forgot earlier. Power cable, yeah, it's got an L bracket, only goes one way. The data cable again, it's only got an L shaped slot, only goes one way. I should put both cables on the screen now so you can see how they go. So you want it neat and tidy. When you've had time, I'll take that cage out and put the lead in that gap if it'll fit. And then but I'm not quite sure how this cage comes out. I did undo the screw and it still never came out, so there's something else holding it together. So it's one of those things. Now, power supply. I've watched my videos before. Don't get a cheap power supply. Most important component in your PC. Buy a cheap power supply, damages all the components in your PC. If it goes faulty, you don't just blow up or conk out. It sends all the wrong voltage to your motherboard, CPU, memory and all that, and just dang, and you've knackered it all up. Yeah? So get a decent power supply. I mean, I use Cooler Master, Corsair, Antec, and then and a few others. But I'm not to say I don't make crap. I think everybody's made a bad power supply somewhere along the line, and then like everything, you get a motherboard and that. You buy motherboards, and then 99% of the time they'll be perfect, and every now and then they'll make a pile of garbage. Yeah. So always read reviews, but don't get one unbranded, no nothing. Try to stay, as I said, Cooler Master, Corsair, Antec. Yeah. If you go to somewhere like Scan, eBuyer, CSGO Online, if you live in the UK, that is, they'll have good power supplies at the end of the day. Now, when I'm talking about power supplies, there's three types of power supplies: fully modular, semi-modular and non-modular. This is semi-modular, where I've got two main power cables, yeah, and I've got three other leads coming to the graphic card, and I think there was another lead, I can't remember now. Well, might have just been the two. and then you can plug things like what hard drive cables you want in, and any other extra like PCI cables, modex cables. You have the choice at the end of the day. Now if you've got non-modular, everything will come direct at the end of the day. No way around it, it just comes direct. Well, I wrote that off. So yeah, they're the cheapest at the end of the day. Non-modular is cheapest at the end of the day. But if you've got a small case, small area, it can be difficult to try and hide the cables. Yeah. Now if you go full modular, the only thing was directly in, well, that's not always the same. If you go full modular, there's no leads plugged in at the end of the day. You have the choice of what leads you want to put in. And in some cases, if you buy Corsair, Cooler Master, you can go to a place called Cable Mods, and you can specify the length of the cables. Any colour under the sun you want, they will do. Obviously all out of price, nothing comes cheap at the end of the day. Now if I was building a real gaming PC for someone, an expensive one, let's say if I was doing an Nvidia build, Nvidia's green, yeah, so I'll probably do power supply cables and the PCI Express cables green and black. Yeah, if I was doing AMD red, I'll probably do red and black. Yeah, we can do red and white or red and blue, because at the end of the day, if you had a Intel AMD, you can do red and blue. Yeah, or if you're doing AMD, you could just have all red if you wanted to. Depends what you fancy, really. But yeah, they are expensive at the end of the day, but they do make nice cables. Yeah. Now you can have them on extensions, or you can buy new ones from scratch, plug straight in to the power supplier, the length you specify. So right, that looking good on there. We get the panel on, wherever the panel is. There. So I've got some thermal paste on it, so it needs a clean. Now basically it don't shut. It's basically telling you your wires are not good, wiring's not good enough. Your cable clearance and that is not good enough. Okay. We're done. Let's get on with the benchmarking. Okay, the setup. There's the hardware and the software. Windows is up to date. AMD drivers up to date. All the games are up to date as well. Farcry did have a change, an update, as we were doing the last bit of benchmarking for the last graphic card, the 5600 on the RX 550. I don't think it made much difference at the end of the day. I don't think there was any optimizations in the graphic department, to be honest with you. But otherwise, everything's up and running, ready to go. Synthetic benchmarks. I've included 11400F, and when you compare 11400F to the AMD 5600, okay, 11400F was running at 125 watts, but I've included it also running at 65 watts. The amount of wattage that was used was double. I mean, we nearly talking 200 watts for 11400F versus 100 watts on the AMD 5600G, and the 5600G on Cinebench come out faster. Now I have been told that it's not down to Intel, the massive wattage, even though their fabrication is behind AMD. It's down to the motherboard manufacturers trying to put as much wattage through the system to be more competitive against their fellow competition companies at the end of the day. But you can see with all that massive wattage, 100 watts, it didn't make much difference to the overall score when it comes to the 5600G. Don't forget, I used the stock coolers for the AMD. On Intel, we switched over to the Cooler Master Hyper 212. Yeah, because the 11400F was banging out 100C and I needed to bring it down. So it's another good win for AMD. Farcry 6, now you've got to remember the 3000G is actually a few years old at the end of the day, and we are talking about the bottom of the stack. This is classed as the Athlon. It does well at the end of the day. I need to put against the Pentium Gold and see how well it does. They're both classed as 50 pound processors, but you're going to probably struggle to find the 3000G. They're just gold dust at the end of the day. Pentium Gold, easy to get hold of. Now we switch over to the 5600G, running the RX 550. You can see the frame rate is now gone straight up. At the end of the day, it does extremely well here. We're still running at 720p, mind you. I mean, the visuals on 720p, depends how big your screen is. It can be quite blurry in some places. At the end of the day, 720p versus 1080p, there's no comparison when it comes to picture quality. Here we are, 1080p. Okay, the frame rate dies. It's literally lost 15 frames at 1080p. But considering you do a lot of shooting in this game, sniping at the end of the day, clarity is a bonus at the end of the day. So you can look at the charts now. You can see the 5600G walks away with it at the end of the day. More cores, faster clocks, AVX, everything really just goes away. But the RGP and the RX 550 are very, very close to each other. So if you're going to buy a 5600G, you won't be needing to buy the graphic card. You can see here we're running with the 3000G with built-in RGP. Yeah, I mean the frame rate's not lovely. I mean you could go lower resolution if you want to, but that's totally up to you. I won't go no lower than 720 because it's going to be really bad on the eye. We now switch over to the 5600 with built-in RGP again, Vega. Frame rate's great, can't complain. It's way above to what it was a minute ago. We now switch over to the RX 550 on the Vega 5600. See, the frame rates are very close. There's a little bit of a boost, but very close at the end of the day. We now switch over to 1080p. Frame rate's dropped by a good 10 to 15 frames, but obviously picture quality's gone way better. Now we're still on low resolution, so it looks fantastic at the end of the day. Now we've got the chart, got the Intel processors on there. At 1080p, literally they're all the same, not many changes. Now we're going to put the 3000G Vega on there because basically it weren't running too good. If you look at the benchmarks it runs at, it ain't going to make 1080p. I don't think the 5600 RGP will cut it at 1080p. I mean, I'm not saying they're not going to be able to play, but I think it's going to be in the 20s, high 20s at the end of the day, possibly into the low 30s. Battlefield 5 at the end of the day, 3000G, 720p at the end of the day, low settings with RGP. You can see it's on a struggle at the end of the day, average 25, 24 frames and dropping down to about 9 frames. Not particularly a nice sight at all. We switch over to the 5600 with the RGP. The frame rate's gone up about 6 to 8 frames. You could say you could play it, I suppose, at the end of the day, but we are dropping on the 1% low below the 30s. But okay, you're on the bare minimum now. Still on the 3000G, but now we've got the RX 550, still running at 720p, but you can see the frame rate is now gone right up to 47 frames average. 34 frames, 1% low. So now we're doing pretty good. At the end of the day, the poor old RGB is not that great for gaming. So I'm now gone up to high resolution settings, set at 720p with the RX 550 and running with the 5600G. Yeah, the frame rate's definitely gone down, so you probably want to go down to medium at the end of the day, do a better job. We switch up to 1080p at the end of the day with the 3000G. Yeah, better picture quality. We're on the low settings now, and yeah, we're on low frame rate as well. Again, you're probably better off with 720p running a medium. It looks alright though. There's no real stuttering or anything, but being a game where you have plenty of shooting going on, you want it nice and smooth as possible, especially if you're going to play the online version. Okay, we're now on 1080p with the 5600 at the end of the day and the RX 550. So yeah, frame rate's gone up, but again, even with 5600G, it doesn't do fantastic at the end of the day. It does a lot better job on Pentiums, or the Intel processors. I think basically with the 5600 losing its cache, the frame rate does go down. Okay, you can see at the end of the day the Intel chips do come out better than the 5600. And the funny thing is that the 3000G running at 720p with the RX 550 seem to do a hell of a lot better job than the 5600G. Don't ask why. For some odd reason, it just comes out a lot better. Can't explain it myself. Run it about 3 or 4 times, it just came out better. CSGO. There won't be no chart at the end of this. I've explained it before. The frame rate's so much up and down because it's an online game. Frame rate, it just goes everywhere. So I won't do a chart because it just looks stupid. So I'll just show you the frame rate. This is the 3000G running with the integrated graphics. I mean, it runs fine at 720 at the end of the day. I can't really complain. We're doing average 90 frames. I mean, when we were booted all together, we was all 60. It don't make my gameplay any better, mind you, but it plays fine at the end of the day. I mean, the £50 chip with built-in graphics, playing CSGO, runs great. So now I've got the 3000G with the RX 550, and the frame rate's gone up basically like double at the end of the day, but you can see the 1% low going down, down, down. This is the problem with the game. It goes up and down like no tomorrow. It's just the way, because it's an online game, input lag, network lag, you name it, it just goes up and down. That's why it's just easier to show you instead of doing a chart at the end of the day. So yeah, plays well. Now we've gone on to one of the new maps and we're playing at 1080p. So you can see the frame rate's dropped right down on the RGB, but it's still over the 30s. I mean, it's still playable at the end of the day, but being a competitive game, you want it frame rate high as possible at the end of the day. No one really worries about the graphics. Again, we're still on the lowest setting. I'm not changing any of the settings. Just left it on where you got global settings, the lowest, medium. You got like 4 settings. I just put them on the lowest at the end of the day and left them there. Simple really. Still at 1080p on a 3000G with the RX 550. Yeah, frame rate's great again at the end of the day, but this time at 1080p. The RX 550's made a big difference on the 3000G. Playing this game. Well, again, you've got to remember, the 3000G is a £50 chip. The graphic card is £80 at the end of the day. So, it's a pretty good bargain. Or you can get the Pentium G at the end of the day, both £50 processor. It works fine at the end of the day. Okay, now we're on a 5600G. Now if you look up the top left under memory, you see we're at 400 and something memory. There's a bug in, I believe it's the Gigabyte BIOS. There's a lot of people saying on the net, basically saying it doesn't work. On auto, I've actually set it to 4 gig manually of system memory being added to the GPU, and it still doesn't show up. So I don't know how much it's affecting the frame rate. At the end of the day, it seems to affect some games and it doesn't affect others. To make it worse, it only seems to affect the 5600G. It may do the 5.7, I don't know, and the 5.3, I don't know that. I don't have one. Now we're adding the RX 550. Yeah, flashbangs. People have got this obsession with throwing flashbangs before we start. Yeah, that seems to be okay again. We've got really good frame rate, running around, no problem, and we're at 1080p. So, yeah, it works fine. At the end of the day, can't complain. I mean, if this is the sort of games you like playing, at the end of the day, I think you do 12 rounds or 15 rounds of, I don't know, each round only lasts about 2 minutes at best. So, if you like this type of game, fine. At the end of the day, I mean, you can improve the graphics, but as you don't last long enough to look at the graphics. So, it's a great shoot 'em up game. I'm actually crap at it, but I just use it for benchmarking. At the end of the day, but it plays well on both IGP chips, regardless. And it also done it very well on the Pentium, if I remember right, the Pentium Gold, on the RX 550. Shadow of War. This is another game where if you haven't set the parameters in the BIOS for the IGP, it comes out funny. So we've got here the 3000G, and then 720p. Alright, we're doing the bare minimum. But it's running. I mean, it looks alright. It didn't freeze anywhere on the screen, but we are on the bare minimum at the end of the day. Now running on a 5600 with the RX 550. Frame rate's had a massive boost, so we can't complain there. At the end of the day, and it's lovely and fluent. At the end of the day, like I said, it looks great regardless what settings you have it on. At the end of the day, I mean, it does look lovely when you're on 1080p or high res with everything turned on. I'm not saying it doesn't look the same, but it looks great even on low settings. So back to the 3000G, but now we're still with the RX 550, but we've gone up to medium settings. At the end of the day, so the frame rate's come back down again. I mean, it's demanded, and every time I run this, I mean, I try to do the same thing over and over again, but every now and then it's slightly different. Can't help it. That's the way game plays. So now we're on 1080p. At the end of the day with the RX 550 and the 5600G. So now we've got the old 6 cores running now. They give us a boost. But back on low settings again. So as I said, it's really depends what you want. Now you've gone to 1080p. It's a sharper picture. But obviously things like textures and that are actually now lower. But again, to be honest with you, it as I said, it looks good on regardless what you do, really. Whatever setting you have on, it looks great. So we start off with a 3000G with a built-in RGB, 720p. we're on the bare minimum 30 and dropping down to 22. Obviously it weren't really freezing, but we are on the bare minimum. Add the RX 550 in there, it gets real boosted. It actually goes faster than the 5600G slightly, but I'm pretty sure we had that same sort of thing with the Intel chips. Now we go up to 1080p. Basically the 4 core and 6 cores are throwing blows at each other. They're very, very similar, and again the 3000G and the Pentium with the RX 550s again are very, very similar. At the end of the day, you can't go wrong. Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, this is another game where I've got that bug, that memory bug. If you look at it, it says it's 348 meg. At the end of the day, it's not going over the 512, regardless if I gave it an extra 4 gig of memory. Again, I don't know if it's making a problem with the frame rate. I've got no idea. At the end of the day, the frame rate is low at the end of the day, but the game is demanding. At the end of the day, I mean, it looks alright. This is the funny thing, it looks alright, seems to run okay. So it could have a problem with Afterburner as well. I don't know, it's something to do with Gigabyte, as I said earlier. So now we updated it to the RX 550. Frame rate's now sort of doubled more or less. Again, it's a demanding game at the end of the day. The RX 550 don't do magnificently on here, but we have managed to get it playable. That's the main thing, as long as it plays. I'm inside in the country, and like you see, you don't see no slowdown, even though it's on the bare minimum. But I mean, if we went to the city, that could be something different. It's just I haven't been to the city yet, so I can't actually do a test there. But when I've done a test on the built-in benchmark, they come out more or less similar to what I've got here. Shoot over to the 5600 using the IGP. So yeah, we get pretty similar benchmarks that we just add. Plays well. Can't complain really. Saves you on the graphic card. Saves you that £80 at the end of the day. We add the RX 550 and now we're up to the 40s at the end of the day, again in the low settings. Yeah, so I'm not using no presets, by the way. It's just basically all low at the end of the day, all the things turned off. So yeah, at the end of the day, now you might be wondering why comes I'm not doing anything with the RX 480 we had, because the RX 480 I think is about to die. It's not working the way it should be. It does funny things when you don't expect it. So we're not using it, and we have got an RX 6600 now to replace it, and we will be doing a full benchmark on all the chips with the 6600 coming up to the Christmas period. Just in case you're wondering, we'll show you how to change the settings in the BIOS, the Gigabyte BIOS, set up the VGA memory. It's easy when you know how, put it that way. It's quite confusing on their BIOS. You see the poor old 3000G, as we said earlier, it was really on the low, but it didn't feel like it was stuttering at all. So I reckon those frame rates are just not right. And I think basically Gigabyte BIOS is playing around with software and just not reading things correctly. So when I went into the game itself, it said I was actually using 2 gig of memory. So, but it didn't seem to show up properly on Afterburner. You can see there the 11400F and the 1010 trace bodes. At the end of the day, the RX 550 is really doing all the work at the end of the day. So regardless what chip you buy, you're not going to go wrong. Total War, Warhammer 2, Skaven fight. We've got the RX 550 with a 3000G. Yeah, we're not doing an RGP version. On high, it ain't got enough power. Basically, it's running okay. Does great. At the end of the day, we're in the 30s, high 30s, so we do have a slight drop into the high 20s on the 1% low. But I think we'll be okay. We switched over to the 5600G, 5600G with the RX 550. We're getting similar performance, not much change. Basically, we're capping the graphic card again. It's running well. At the end of the day, I mean, I do love this game. It's hard, it's great fun. Switched over to 1080p on the 3000G with the RX 550. You can see the frame rate's still there. We are getting down to 25, 24 frames on the 1% low, so not too great in some aspects. Then we finish off with 1080p, low settings with the RX 550 running on a 5600G. Again, frame rates similar to what they were on the 3000G. Nothing major. I mean, the graphic card's really doing all the work, really. It looks great at the end of the day. There's no major freezing, hiccups or anything like that. And it's a great game. I'll suggest everyone play it, or any of the Total War games really. They're all fantastic. Okay, let's look at a chart. It's looking good. It's very similar across the board. No one's running away. We had the same thing with the Intel chips. I thought I had the Intel chips on 1080p on the low with the RX 550. We haven't, so we're not including them on this chart. But I do plan to update all my charts when I get my website up and running. You can look on the website and the charts will be updated regular if they're not on the video. So yeah, it's all come good at the end of the day. We get to the conclusion to say, okay, would you buy? You buy the 5600 or you buy the 3000G if you get your hands on one, or you go with a Pentium or 11400F. Okay, we're back. Oh yes, I've got a jump on. It's getting cold in the UK now, and I don't have the heat on. Well, not unless it's really cold. So what do you do? Intel or AMD? Well, both sides are good at the end of the day. Now the 3000G I think was a great chip for what it was, if you can get your hands on one. I'd have paid £30 more for that one to benchmark it. They all keep saying they're going to get more in stock. I don't see it happening somehow. I think I just got lucky at the end of the day. But I mean, if you can get your hands on one for £50, yeah, I think you're better off with that than buying the Pentium Gold, because it comes with a superior IGP. You can at least play games at low settings at 720p. Yeah. And if you wanted to, you could go down a lower, one more tier if you wanted to, and it probably solved most of the problems. But the Pentium Gold's RGP it was awful. Literally, I wouldn't even bother going there. But I mean, if you couldn't get hold of a 3000G, Pentium Gold, £50, get an RX 550 or an NVIDIA 1030. Ideally, you want the one with a DDR5, yeah, because it was way quicker than the one with the DDR4, and it's the same price, literally. Or literally, there's £10 difference between the two, what I've seen. But it looks like everyone's getting the DDR5 one in, and not bothered about the DDR4 one no more. And they're basically again £85-ish. So bargain. The 4-core processor, well, I can't compare it against an AMD one because I don't have one. But to be honest with you, now that's £80. Yeah, I'd buy that. If it was me going to buy one, I'd quite have to spend the extra £30 on that because it's got 4 cores over the Pentium Gold. Yeah, 4 cores is always going to be better than 2. So yeah, now we go on to the 11400F versus the 5600G. Just like Intel, AMD, you can buy the 5600X. Yeah, it doesn't come with graphics and it comes with more cache. So it's slightly different, where the 11400 AMD, the same chip, just don't come with the graphics. The AMD one's slightly different. And the 5600X is actually faster in games. Yeah, but it just doesn't come with built-in graphics, so you have to buy a graphic card. What would I buy? Well, if I was on a budget, and I don't want to spend no more than £450, yeah, the 5600G is a bargain. You can play literally, well, all the games we tested quite easily at 720p. I mean, you could, in some cases, go down a little bit, yeah, on a resolution. It just obviously make things life easy. But I'll be quite happy to play at 720p until I'd buy a graphic card. But if I had the 5600G, sorry, I want to buy an RX 550, because the RX 550 or even the NVIDIA 1030, the graphics frame rate is so close to the IGP, you're really wasting £85. You're better off going up the next tier, what that tier is, because obviously graphic cards have got stupid amounts of money at the moment. And then I don't know, I mean, ideally, now I know AMD is supposed to be releasing a 6500 series, hopefully in January. I can't say when, but I know it's supposed to be coming next quarter. And that may be down under the £200 barrier. Yeah, so, and that'd be on RDNA 2 or RDNA 3. So at least you're going to get a big performance boost. Yeah, and you're not going to waste your money. What else? Yeah, the bug. And then they've got this bug with, it seems to be a Gigabyte thing, because on the net there's a lot of people actually saying what you got to do to get around it. And it's not just this board, it seems to be all Gigabyte boards what support the AMD system. So I don't know what they've done with the BIOS at the end of the day. Because even the Aorus Pro Elites have the same BIOS as this. They might have a few extra tweaks in it, and they've got the same problem. So I'll show you how to do a video. I'll show you a video now. In a second. Before we finish, how to fix it. Well, how to get add more video RAM. So if you've got a problem where the Gigabyte BIOS is not saving the video RAM set up for the built-in IGP, it's because you've gone to settings, AMD CBS, then from there MBIO common options, GFX, in IGP configuration, and then you set what size memory you want to have. You do all that, basically you go through whatever setting you want to do. Now I've set it to 4G, or the 4GB of memory, because we've got 16 gig on board. Go to save it, and we go from there. And after you're going through all that, you go back, after you found out your games are not still going up from 512 meg of memory, you go back to the BIOS settings, and you find out it's still on auto, it has not saved. So what you have to do to get around the problem. Okay, to do it the correct way, we go back to settings, we go to IO ports instead. Then you've got integrated graphics. We change that from auto to forced. Then you get UDMA come up, or UMA mode come up. We change that to specified. Then we change the frame size to what we want. Again, we'll change ours to 4 gig, because we've got 16 gigs of memory overall. And then that should work after you saved it. Okay, you've seen the video, how to add more RAM. Now it's not going to fix everything because we added in some games. You know, we added the 4 gig of memory. It come up with errors saying you ain't got enough memory, or it didn't see the register on Afterburner. So I don't know. At the end of the day, even when it said it had low frame rate, when we had Red Dead, we were doing 15 frames a second. It didn't feel like I was doing 15 frames a second. So I don't quite know really what's going on. If it does the same thing on the 5700G or the 5300G, I don't know. I don't have any of those CPUs and I don't plan to buy one. Okay, that's me done. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one. Andy out. Have fun all.